Hmm.
So what are you willing to pay $3,500 for?
I don't know if I'm willing to pay for Apple.
What are those things called?
AR, VR. The Vision Pros, is that what it is? Something like that. I forgot. But I think I think they're going to be successful.
It's interesting. Saw people talking about it. You know, I don't follow any of this stuff anymore. You know, I guess, 10 years ago, people were really excited about the Apple, the Apple party where they released some things. Didn't even know it was happening. Saw that some people, I saw $3,500 was trending, I guess, on Twitter. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I wonder what this is. And I saw it and I was like, oh, okay. And at first I was like, wow, that seems a little crazy. And then I did some research and I realized that actually a lot of these goggles are already in the $1,500 to $2,000 range.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. So these guys are going to send, I think I told you, I think they're going to sell like 10 million of these things. Cause I was like, there's a lot of early adopters. People just going to want to get them, yada, yada, yada. And then I saw a stat that Apple was only expecting to sell 200,000 or 300,000 of them. And I simply did some math, and that's, I think
that's that from for the first run production for the version 1. Yeah. And
that's $1 billion.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous to think about.
Instant unicorn.
They have a lot of unicorns. So does Amazon, obviously. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize, certain
I'm
things.
I'm sure that just buying power cords for Apple is probably
$1 billion business.
Yeah.
Are these well bought for you? Like, do people buy those a lot?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean,
I swear by the little ones.
Yeah.
What are those called?
I mean, the AirPod Pro, or AirPods.
Is that what you wear when you're running? Or do you wear this?
Yeah. No, these are way too big and heavy. This is just for the show.
Well, we are delighted that you have exclusive headphones just for the show. Thank you, Tim Cook and Apple, and all that nonsense. So as we're talking about money, this is a great time to bring in today's guest, who you may think just by seeing him for the first time is ready to be playing a video game, but no, it's not. He's also not a race car driver. He's Ben Munson. Ben, welcome.
I do play video games in this exact same seat, Zach Miller, so you're not far off.
Really? What kind of video games?
I mean, all kinds, honestly. I'm really into some real-time strategy, sort of World War II real-time strategy games. I love those. So,
Tim, do you play video games?
No. No.
I don't get as much time.
I do a couple of things on my phone that I'll do. I Elevate. I do the Elevation app, which is just brain games. Try to keep my mind sharp, if you will.
Mine is more to numb the feeling in my brain.
Yeah. There's just times, man. After a long day, you just need to veg out doing something just to not think critically and just kind of chill.
A lot of people will watch TV or binge on Netflix. I've just never been that kind. So I know Zach Miller loves his Netflix.
I'm currently watching a show that I'm not really that deep into yet that I'm sure Tim loves. And it just finished. It's called Succession.
Oh, yeah.
It's taken me about 2 weeks to get 3 or 4 episodes in, which is like, I don't know. It hasn't hooked me.
Yeah.
Is it gonna hook me?
Well, I mean, so they're saying that will be one of HBO's biggest, like maybe second to like Sopranos.
I don't know about that,
because Sopranos and The Wire are usually the ones that are up there, and I think Sopranos is slightly maybe over.
What about a Game of Thrones? Aren't you forgetting about Game of Thrones?
I think Game of Thrones is probably the most overrated show of all time, and absolutely the worst ending of all time. There is
probably one of their biggest moneymakers, though.
I don't know if that's true. A single episode. I'm not sure if that's true. I tried giving it a second go, and I couldn't even get through episode. Like, I think I got through one episode, and I was just like,
too many characters for me. I can't keep up with them all.
Yeah, that makes it really, really tough. And like, I've tried to make a real concerted effort to put my phone down, because now when you're watching these shows, there's so many nonverbal things that are part of the show to try to keep people's attention, and I miss it. And then so I'm trying to put my phone down.
Oh, because Okay, so usually when people are like finding I remember finding stats like this when writing Anomaly. It's like people are constantly they're so ADD, they're channel surfing on everything that they do, even if it's the internet, at a networking event, whatever, watching this show, they're constantly doing something else. And growing up, we had just one TV, right? That's what we focused on.
Right.
Now we have second screen, third screen, fourth screen experiences. And that's a lot to handle for some people.
It is.
Zach, my daughter's 13. I walk in to the living room the other day. She has the TV on. She has her Apple laptop. She has her phone in a little stand, and she has her iPad. And I'm like, 4 screens, and all 2 did the different things. Like, how do you even pay attention?
I think that sports would be something you like. You could do with sports, but like anything else, man. I mean, that's impressive.
Because that's what's nice about like going to a sports bar if you're trying to watch multiple things. But I find that usually you're focused on one though, or kind of like the equivalent of Red Zone, where you're focused on what's about to happen. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe the kids are wired differently these days, but I can't focus on, like, if I'm trying to listen to a book, I got to be focused on that book. If I'm trying to read a book, I got to be focused on that thing. I'm trying to watch something and I really want to watch it, like, I got to be focused on
even then my thoughts will wander and then I'll have to end up rewinding it. Happens all the time.
So when I first met you, Ben, it was back, I would say 2012 to 2014 timeframe. You were working down. Well, do you think that was 2012 timeframe?
Yeah, probably? 2012. Yeah, I would say 2012 was. Okay,
so 2012, you were working corporate America on Main Street in downtown Norfolk. You were in the banking world, and you seemed to be a pleasant person. We would see each other on occasion, but I guess during that time. And did you go to school for banking, by the way?
So, well, no, I mean, it was more of a business degree. It was an economics degree. So, I mean, you come out, I had no clue what I wanted to do when I came out of college. And, my dad wanted me to get a job. So the guy down the street worked at a local bank. So I went down there and handed him my resume. And I worked at that bank for 12 years after that. And then that's when you and I met when I was there. And then this story, and I've told it publicly a couple times, but there was a time when I felt like I kind of hit the top of my career, and I'm sure other people have felt the same. And I was kind of looking, what do I do? What do I do? And really, I kind of honestly would have stayed in that area, in that flux for a long time had I not had a boss that I just didn't like and that we didn't get along. So having that pushed me to leave that job and then pursue my career in the mortgage banking. And I mean, it's been awesome. So yeah, I mean, sometimes having a bad boss and leaving a job, it's a blessing, even though you don't know it at the time. It's so scary. So
what drew you to the mortgage industry, or is that something you did when you were in banking?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I always did personal loans or business loans, but in banking, you reach this point where you either are going to go into the business world or the business banking world and loan money to businesses, or you're going to go into the personal world and make loans to individuals. So I decided on going the individual route. I loved helping people. And I thought home ownership was just a really cool thing that provided so much wealth to so many Americans that it would be so cool to be a part of that and to help people with it. So, I frankly, that's a little deeper than I was thinking at the time when I was looking for a job. At the time, I was just kind of wanted a job, and it was something that fell in my lap. But looking back on it, that's kind of why I felt like I was drawn to that.
Did you quit the job with a job in line, or did you have nothing?
I had nothing lined up. So it was almost like one of those Jerry Maguire moments, like middle of the day. And my wife, I had kind of seen the writing on the wall, and my wife and I had gotten our finances to a point where it wouldn't be a problem if I quit. And I just texted my wife one day. I was like, today's the day. She was like, go ahead.
Wow.
And so it was scary as hell at the time, but just looking back, so life-changing.
Two other things that I want to just quickly at least mention that I've always appreciated about you is that number one is I love that you drive a trashy car. Like, I love that you don't care. You got like an old beater that's like 15 years old. It's a Honda Civic, maybe a Honda Accord, something like that. You don't care. It's just like, it gets me from point A to point B. I don't need to be flashy. I'm gonna put this money somewhere else. And so maybe just tell me about that mindset around that. And then the other thing I want to talk about is how you were the first person I've ever met, you and Chris Tillett, who was on the show, maybe in 2021, maybe. How you guys had that flipping business, and you were the first people that I'd actually ever met. I'd seen people that had done flipping business, but I'd never known anyone that would do it. You guys would buy video games, flip them, and turn that into some cash. And so I always thought that was interesting, learning the ropes about that from you guys. So like the car and the video game business, just briefly chat about both of those.
Well, it's funny because both of those kind of like relate to that time in my life where I was leaving the bank. I mean, not having a car payment, God, man, that's like such a blessing, especially when you're, changing careers and that kind of thing. So, the car thing. So, I mean, really, I've just never been a car guy. I just have never really cared that much for having a great car. As long as I got some Bluetooth in there and I can listen to my music, like I'm pretty much fine with it. So, I always felt like that was an area of my life I could cut and not have to overspend it, But
it has a cassette player in it. So you actually have to put your DVD player in there to do it?
Yeah. Yeah. One of those cassettes with the little wire that goes to the CD player.
That's right. So put it into the headphone jack and you're
exactly. So that's, again, that time of my life was just, it was good to not have a car payment. And then the whole video game flipping thing, that played into it because that was a little bit of an extra income stream and the time I was making the transition. So it honestly, flipping video games for me was more fun than it was work because I just love and when we say flipping video games, I'm talking about I go to yard sales or I go to Facebook groups and I find like this. Where is it? This one behind me right here. This I don't know if you're listening, you can't see it, but it's the GoldenEye Nintendo 64 inbox edition. So I'd find stuff like that and just find and arbitrage it. Go take it from a yard sale or Facebook Marketplace, put it on eBay or Amazon.
Is that one worth a decent amount of money?
That was honestly not that much because they made so many of them. It's probably maybe $100. So
what's the biggest win in terms of flipping video games?
Okay, I found there was this one game I found for 60 cents at a thrift shop. It was an old PC game, like an old it was a World War II PC game. It was fun. We were just talking about that. But it was like from 1999. It was in the box. It had all the booklets and everything, and I sold it for $160.
That's crazy. And I was reading people will buy like old iPhones or iPads with Flappy Birds on it for like $10,000. Yeah.
What?
Why? Because they can't get it anymore? They killed that game?
Yeah, the guy that made the game, he took it off the App Store just because it was so addicting that it was like it's just done. And so people that had that game downloaded on a device, if you have that game, it's worth a lot of money because
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I honestly trying to think if I have an old iPhone now.
Yeah,
Zach, when you had mentioned that, I thought that you had misspoke when you were like flipping video games. And I was like, you mean houses? But wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I remember you guys would if I recall, the game was finding not necessarily single units, but like boxes. Like someone's like, here, buy my entire collection of games. And then you go through those and then, you buy the whole thing for $10 and then you can flip it for, a couple $100 and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, that's absolutely buying the lots and then piecing them out. But I mean, it was but honestly, the biggest thing, and this is in any business, it was relationships. I created relationships with these guys who bought storage units. And so anytime they found old video games, who were they going to message me? Because they knew I'd buy it right then and there. So, anybody like that. There was another guy who did yard sales and stuff, and he'd buy it all and then package it up and sell it to me. And it was just relationships I had created with people that would call me when they had something rather than me having to go find every single deal.
And you had a company name around that. It was No So Games, right? Something like that.
No So Games. Yeah. God, dude, bringing back memories, man. I thought about that in a long time. Because that business, we closed that down once I started getting real busy with my new job and it started ramping up. I think Chris was doing some other things with his career. So, but yeah, that was, a lesson in entrepreneurship, like raw entrepreneurship. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this all the time. I know you know who he is, but he talks about flipping all the time, and it can be done. You just got to put the work in. So
that's a blast. Our neighbor across the street, he'll, I don't know what he does to get access to the old abandoned storage units, man. He'll come back. You know when he hits something when his trailer is full and his pickup truck is full, and
we watched that show, Storage Wars. So it's called.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to see. Like, I think you just invest the time to learn the game, whatever they are, and if you put in that time, I think good things can happen. Sell a lot of different things online. Yeah.
Do what you know. Like we never went into things we didn't know anything about. I tried to do board games, but I don't know anything about board games. And then most of the times they're missing pieces and stuff. So
there's a market for that too, huh?
Yeah, especially like the big, 1,000-piece sets, like the big epic RPG games and stuff like that. Yeah, you can make a lot of money. But you stick with what you know, because I didn't know anything about those and I lost money on a few of those. So,
who knew?
I don't. This is a funny story, and I don't know if you guys remember. There was an old game in the '90s called Mousetrap, and you would set it up on the board, and it had like this little cage that went down and stuff. That game, man, if you can find all the pieces for that game, it's worth some money now online. People will pay good money for that game. So,
and they turned that into a movie series called Saw.
Sorry. Let me go on for a second, Zack.
Yeah. It took you I'm like, I don't know if that's a courtesy laugh or what, but thank you, comedian in training here. So now you're in the mortgage world, helping individuals, kind of like you were before, but more fulfilling. You don't have a bad boss type of thing. Jumping into that, was that a pretty easy move? How quickly were you able to reestablish some of those relationships? Kind of bring us back to the people who. If someone's listening and they're like, oh, I'm in a bad spot, or I want to start something new, like what's the day one to kind of day 365 look like to kind of get yourself on your feet?
Well, you say 0 to 365. I probably started at day 180. I'll be honest, because I had a career as a banker for 12 years before that. So people saw me as a lender. They saw me as a money guy. So it was an easy transition for me to tell them, hey, I'm doing mortgages now, and then to start ramping up my business. I already had the relationships. Does that make sense? So, but yeah, I mean, starting out, in the mortgage business, people don't want a mortgage. They want a house. And so a lot of times they're going to call a real estate agent first. So the key, I think, in the mortgage business is to create relationships with real estate agents and service them, help them grow their business, so that in return they send their clients to you. I mean, that's the bread and butter of any mortgage business. Refinances come and go as rates go up and down, but people are always going to buy houses no matter where rates are. So, yeah, I think that the key really to starting out is just to create the relationships.
So, in other than relationships, what ways can someone like you differentiate yourself from other mortgage officers?
That's a great question, because as a mortgage guy, we all have somewhat the same products. So I think that's a great question. But I think what differentiates me, and I think how other loan officers try to differentiate themselves, is one, availability, right? You're always available. Even if it's 9 o'clock at night, you're going to answer the phone. And two, for me, it's my attention to detail and my ability to educate. So I love to teach and train and explain. So I take that into my business by making sure I give them a very detailed pre-approval. They know exactly how much the numbers are going to be, what the rate is, payment, how much they can afford, so that they don't get sticker shock or get upset when they find something they like, but they can't buy because the payment's too high. So
I actually heard about that story with you the other day. How you were very, like, you gave someone a range, and then there was another mortgage lender that didn't, and the person, when they did figure it out, they're like sticker shock, unlike you, who as early as possible was giving them that number, and that person appreciated that about you and said that was a flaw on one side of it, for the other person, but good for you. So
It's like loan officers are lazy. We're lazy. I mean, we're commission employees, right? We're going to take the route of least resistance. And for me, I pride myself on just making sure I do a great job for every single client, because it comes around. Even if I know I'm not going to make money off of a deal, I will still put in the work that it takes to get them the information they want. So, I mean, really, just helping people. You help enough people, you don't have to worry about money.
Interesting.
You're in a world kind of like realtors, kind of like financial advisors, people associated with money and big transactions. When you go to a networking event, a lot of people might be standoffish towards you when they hear your career, right? Not necessarily you, but as soon as they hear I'm one of these white collar service providers, they're like, oh God, I can't stand that person. I don't want to be around them, because they just get bombarded with nonsense over and over and over again. Do you find that you get that sometimes? How quickly do you tell someone what you do as a profession? Am I wrong in that? Like, because
no, you're right. There's a meme among real estate agents. It's like, there's two scenes. One is two guys standing at a urinal, and they're like far apart, and then all of a sudden they get close together and they're standing right next to each other in adjacent urinals. And the one guy says, hi, I'm a loan officer. And, the other guy's a real estate agent. So it's like, yes, there is times where you feel like, okay, they're going to be standoffish, but I'm a person just like they are. So I just get into their personal stuff, maybe not even talk about business. I mean, Zach, you're the pro at this, right? You ask somebody at a networking event, what are you watching on Netflix? So just not even asking what they do.
I hate people asking about the business stuff, because I think it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you're really truly trying to build a real relationship, what they do for a living doesn't matter. And people are like, well, I'm here at a networking event. I'm like, yeah, I understand. But if you're trying to build relationships, that relationship should be based first on actually having not necessarily something in common, but something to talk about outside of the thing that both of you could potentially do business with. And I obviously I still get a ton of pushback from that as my first question with people. And I have some other questions in there too that I have as new ones, but it's just like, it doesn't matter, right? Like why have the first conversation, why have the first answer a question from someone be potentially such a negative thing?
Well, and especially when everybody's rehearsed their elevator speech. So you're going to get it. It's all canned, at least when you ask them a question like that, it catches them off guard.
I help 96% of this type of target customer create 67% of their life back. Would you like to know how?
Yeah.
No.
Exactly. Or, if somebody asks me what I do, it's usually, getting a mortgage sucks and I make it suck less. I mean, that's really the bottom line.
My favorite response ever for that is from Chad, who was on the show, maybe top 10 episodes, Tim.
Yeah, that's been a while.
And Chad Stencil, and his when someone says, hey, what do you do for a living? His response is, as little as possible. You? And so like, that's what he says. And he spins it back to the other person. And I love that line. Like, I think it's hilarious. And sometimes I'll say it and people are like, oh boy. And so it's getting that narrative off of you having to speak about something that.
It's getting that tension out of the way, because like usually there's this like tension, like, oh, hello, how are you doing? And if you say something just catches them off guard, they're like, okay, all right, this guy's a smart aleck.
Yeah, and over time, I mean, that's just people are just trained. We're creatures of habit, so it's like that's you go to a networking event where that's professionally related, and that just naturally is the first question. And to your point, Zach, no one cares.
And it really doesn't move more forward either. It's just like it's a step back, really.
And the thing is, no one cares until you give them a reason to care. And so I guess by cutting to the chase with your question, it gives someone a reason to care.
Can't believe Ben doesn't watch Netflix.
I don't watch this as often as you, Zach.
I don't watch it that often. Tim?
No, one of the things that stood out reading. So for those that are new to the show, we ask the people that are going to be on the show to fill out a quick form. Just, hey, what do you want to talk about? What are some things people are going to learn? And so Ben, when you filled out the form, one of the things that stood out to me was that you set up a goal. Your goal was to help 1,000 homeowners in 10 years. So I want to dive into that because I think that having those goals is really, really important. So I guess to start off, how did you come up with 1,000?
I'll be honest, it was I really didn't come up with the goal until I was about 3 years in. And then I just kind of looked at my average the last 3 years and just kind of extrapolated from there. It was about 100, 90 to 100 clients per year. So I just, I set that goal. Really, at the time, it was just something fun to do, because you go through these exercises, you go to some seminar, you hear, okay, you need to set these big, hairy, audacious goals. BHAG is one term I remember. Big, hairy, audacious goal. So set those big, huge goals. And so I was just doing that exercise, and it just came up with it. And I really track it maybe once every 6 months and just kind of see where I am. And right now I'm at, I think, a 570, and I'm like 6.5 years in. So I got a little catching up to do.
Yeah. 575 according to the form.
Yeah.
But I think that that's really important, one, internally to keep you honest, and then the numbers don't lie. But from an outsider point of view, when I have to decide who I want to work with, if I see somebody that has a BHAG, that like, I want to go with the person that's hustling, that you are working towards someone or towards something. I think that that's really cool.
Tim loves BHAGs, by the way. That's like his abbreviation of the year. What do they call those things?
Yeah.
Acronyms. Loves BHAGs.
Well, I just think that it's really, really important that, if you don't challenge yourself, then you're just kind of going through the motions, and you're just wasting time.
Yeah. And you don't have to have that right when you start. And I didn't. Like like when you start doing something, you don't know what you're capable of. You don't know like how big the goal should be. So honestly, it took me a little while to make it. So
yeah. Well, so like one of the things that, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, Zach, but 2 days ago was my 9-year run streak anniversary. So I haven't missed a day of running in 9 years. So like to your point, Ben, I did not say, hey man, I'm going to run for 9 years straight, not miss a day. It was one of those things. It was just like, hey man, it turned into 30 days, and then 30 turned into 60. And I was like, maybe I can do 100, maybe I can do a year. And so now I'm just out there every day. So,
and then once you hit that, and once you hit, like, let's say the 10-year mark, then you're probably going to say, all right, let's do another 10.
Well, and that was the thing.
10 felt easy.
Yeah. I told Zach, I was like, man, if I qualify for Boston, the day after I run Boston, I'm going to end the streak. And I failed at that twice. So
miserably.
So you got to keep going.
So where are you on that list? Like, you had sent me this like 3 years ago. There's a list of people who have run at least 1 mile a day.
I think it's
something like that. Where are you on that list?
I don't know. I mean, like I don't pay attention.
List.
Well, there's like a
guy who
streak.
won was like 50 years old.
Yeah, there's like a run
years.
streak membership kind of thing, and like in Virginia, and it's been a while since I've looked, but I don't even come close to even being on the top of that list. Like people have way longer than me on that list.
Do you think you're close to ending that?
No, I feel great. So, and as long as I feel great and I'm having fun with it, it's just, it's just part of my life. That's just what I do.
I love that. It's like that's it. It's
just,
it's a principle. You built it into the fabric of your life. I love that.
And the same holds true in terms of with the goal that you set. It's just like, hey, once you hit 1,000, then let's do another 1,000.
Exactly.
It's just part of your fabric now.
Yeah, it's just every day you just wake up and grind, and then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, holy crap.
So let's think about someone whose goal is to buy a house, right? And their goal is to buy a house. Maybe they've saved up some money to do so. They think that they can afford it, and they contact you or someone in your field, and they realize that, hey, the interest rates are absolutely obnoxious right now, and maybe this isn't the right time. Is that a true statement? Are they obnoxious right now, or are we just hearing that?
Yeah,
from
they're
the media?
Definitely obnoxious.
Okay.
Definitely obnoxious.
And how do you combat that conversation? What do you say to these individuals that are probably ready, want to, but now are maybe a little on the fence because 7.5% is vicious?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, the most people don't remember their interest rate; they remember their monthly payment, right? You probably couldn't tell me the exact interest rate on your mortgage, Zach. It's all about the monthly payment. You know how much comes out of your account every month. So I would say to them, here I would give them all of the information. Here is what the payment is at 400,000. Here's what the payment is at 300,000, and so on. And then you can choose where your payment is just by shopping in that price range. So the biggest determinant of your payment is, obviously we can't control interest rate, but it's the purchase price. So you can control the purchase price, buy the house that you can afford. And honestly, that's what I do. I empower them to make the best decision for them, because everybody's different. Some people don't mind paying a higher percentage of their income in housing. Some people want to pay lower. So I just try to empower them and give them the best information. If they ask me for advice, I give my advice. So yeah, I would say to those people, shop in the price range where your payment is affordable.
Yeah, I'm curious. Are people starting to be more optimistic that rates are going to go down? Are they looking at like 5-year ARMs or something like that, expecting that these rates can't maintain 7.5% or whatever they're at now?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people that are predicting that, and I would say don't base your decision off of that. Base it off of what your payment and what you can afford right now, and then if it goes down, that's a bonus. But there are a lot of people, especially, economists, people in the industry, over the next 12 to 24 months, rates will most likely come down. So one thing, and I'll mention this, is it has to do with interest rates, is that the problem we're seeing right now is inventory is so low because in America, we use a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So nowhere else in the world do they use a 30-year fixed rate like we do in America. So I think like 85 or 90% of the mortgages written in America are a 30-year fixed rate. And so it is the bank who's taking the interest rate risk. So what you have right now is when the interest rates go up to 7%, you've got somebody sitting at 2.5% or 3%, and they don't want to sell their home. Why would they if they don't have to? Whereas you look at Europe, Australia, other developed Western countries that have a mortgage industry, they're doing adjustable rates, 5 or 7 year adjustable rate mortgages. So it's the customer, the homeowner is taking the interest rate risk, not the bank. And so you don't see this phenomenon in a lot of places because of that. So it's really interesting what's going on right now, and that's going to, I think, continue to see house prices go up because of that.
One of the things, Zach, do you remember we were talking about this a few episodes ago? One of the things we talked about that some of the startup companies around here that have faced was they're trying to relocate people in from Silicon Valley, Austin, but the inventory in this area is extremely low, that they're having trouble bringing people in. Is that in fact true, that the inventory in Hampton Roads is really low, or is it just...
Or that's a national phenomenon, but I think I don't think Hampton Roads is any worse or better than the national average. In fact, I'd have to look at it, but my assumption would be that we're probably inventory is a little better around here because we have military moving in and out. That would just be my assumption, but I haven't seen the numbers. But yes, that's a national phenomenon because of what I just talked about. I mean, again, people aren't going to trade up to make their payment go up $1,000 for the same exact house. So.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is really fascinating to me, just in the sense of when you have older people that are getting ready to retire, they're trying to downsize, and then with divorces, there's so many people that are all trying to get the same value home, from different first-time buyers. I mean, it's just fascinating to watch all this stuff take place, and as a result, the inventory being so low.
Yeah. I mean, so when people tell me that real estate prices are going to crash or they're waiting to buy until they crash, I just don't see it. I don't know what the catalyst is. This is a supply side issue. Supply is low. Whereas in 2008, when the crash happened, it was the demand side. The demand was extremely high. So I think
many of those houses in 8 didn't actually change, right? And so they're still sitting parallel to the same prices. There are some cities like Las Vegas that dramatically dropped, but houses in the Northern Virginia area, I mean, those prices have continued to skyrocket. Yeah. My childhood house that was bought 30 something years ago is still at a 5x from when they bought it. Yep. And it never really decreased from that. And so it's kind of like what you're saying. It's like, hey, like go sell your house, sure, but then you got to buy a house that's probably however much more, some multiplier on top of that you're going to have to pay for a roughly the same size house. And does that make sense? I mean, it's
going to be interesting to see how it plays out. It really will. I don't know how you fix it. Rates don't seem to be fixing it. They seem to, in fact, be making the house prices worse. I mean, go up even more, but we'll see.
You seem to be.
No, it's just wild to watch all this take place.
Yeah, you seem to be a pretty busy person, with 100 clients a year in there, trying to get to the 1,000. Going to a plethora of networking events, getting your name out there, doing shows like this. Are you productive? Are you? How do you get all this stuff in a daily basis to be the routine that makes it good for you?
I mean, I think like a lot of people, you keep a to-do list. And then for me, I just put a little $ next to the stuff that's going to make me money. And I try to always do that stuff first. In my business, I'm 100% commission. So, if I don't close loans, I don't get paid. So I try to stick to money-making activities, but just like anybody, it's not easy. I feel like my to-do list, it gets longer the more I check off,
That money sign thing is something that I would be willing to bet that 95% of people don't do.
Yeah, that's a cool hack. I will incorporate that into my to-do list.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they were basically saying, "Oh, here's all the stuff that I'm doing." I'm like, "You need to prioritize things that will make you money."
Yeah, I think that mentally I've always done it, but I have not physically do it. And I think that on top of that, I'll probably put a $ next to stuff that makes money and a heart that just makes me feel good, and just to try to remind myself that, hey, man, I like to be nice, and I have a hard time saying no, but at the same time, you got to focus on generating revenue.
Will you put a money sign on things that could lead to money? Not like writing a blog post, but like if you're in a sales meeting, you would put a money sign like this is a prospect meeting?
No, I mean, well, if I was meeting with a client, to talk about a mortgage or a possible sale, absolutely. Yeah, but not if I was in my company sales meeting. That's more like a time waster. So, but there's, in addition to that, I mean, there's also, I've created a ton of processes in my business that have helped propel. I mean, just like anybody else, you have to create systems so that if somebody is coming in behind you, they could replicate it. Or, if you're doing the same thing over and over, it's nice to know how to do it. So I send out the same exact email all the time. I mean, every transaction is pretty much the same. The same email goes out. So I've just created these templates and systems that automatic follow-up systems or email templates that have really helped me automate everything. So also, one thing that saves me a ton of time is not taking applications over the phone anymore. So I used to sit on the phone and actually type in all the information as they gave it to me. And that is just honestly a waste of time, because we all know you could go to the website and fill it out yourself. And you have all of your information saved in your Google Chrome, your name, your address, like you could just hit and go to next. So it's so much better. And I think I can have a much more meaningful conversation with the person too, if they complete the application ahead of time. And then I could go through everything and literally talk to them about the mortgage instead of filling out little boxes. So I think those two things, not filling out applications and creating the templates, have been huge.
Was that hard to implement, something that you had been doing for so long, to then be like, oh, you know what, I'm going to have you do that, which you should do probably?
Yeah. I mean, obviously there are things that they miss or they don't put in there because I didn't ask the right questions and stuff like that. So I would say that has come back, I don't want to say to bite me, but I have had some surprises come up at the end because of that. But honestly, it's so minimal that it's worth the time. Honestly, it's a huge time saver. Fill out a loan application, take you 30, 40 minutes over the phone. It'd take you 15 minutes on your phone, to do online. So
yeah. We kind of do the same thing by just filtering out, not to say that you were trying to filter people, but with this show, if someone's like, oh, I want to be on the show, I'm like, cool, you fill out this form. If they don't fill out the form, they can't be on the show. And it's not really that hard or difficult. It's a handful of questions that you probably, if you own a business or in the business world, should be able to answer fairly easily.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of self-filtering people where it's like, okay, like,
you're right about that, Zach. Because when I clicked on it the first time, I was like, okay, I can fill this out real quick. I started into it, and then I scrolled down, saw the rest. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do that later.
But it still shouldn't. I mean, if you're on your phone, maybe so. But if I tell everyone, if it takes longer than 5 minutes, you're doing it wrong. But I mean, primarily though, it's to help the guests. So now we have your social media handles. We can cross promote, and it's well intentioned.
But it filters. You got to see how serious. Like, how serious are you? Are you willing to go through this little hoop?
That's right.
So.
Yeah. And shout out to Superhuman. I don't know what you use for your email platform, but Superhuman, to your point, in terms of templates, they're called snippets. So I have a whole laundry list of snippets that I would slow down and ask myself, what are the same emails that I'm constantly typing over and over and over and over again? And with Superhuman, I mean, I just have everything already pre-populated for all the questions. Like, hey man, let's schedule a meeting. It's like, all right, I know what my hotkey is to send someone the link to my calendar to pick out a time, and it's just like, I save so much time using Superhuman that it's just, man, it's just
I use Outlook, and it is not that sophisticated.
Well, Superhuman supports Outlook. So you should take a look at that.
I'm gonna give us another example that you use for that.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh. So like, what are ways to start Wheel can help me? Or, hey, I'm a founder and I need to, what are some things that I need to pay attention to? And so like, I got to the point where I was like, all right, you need to focus on your product. You need to focus on your customer. You have to focus on your runway, those types of things that I just kept on typing over and over and over again. I just create a snippet. Or even on the Star Peninsula side, it's like, we created the snippets to like, oh, you're approved to pitch. Now these are your next steps, so it just, and you can put placeholders in there, your bracket, first name, whatever, so that, and it won't allow you to send it unless you put in that person's name or whatever. It just saves me so much time.
That sounds like why I wrote this.
But a lot of people don't get it. You got to slow down so you can speed up. And,
I don't normally do a plug
Zach,
for the book.
ChatGPT could write that book in 25 seconds now. So
it can't, because I've tried getting it to.
So that's another interesting thing, right? ChatGPT, that's going to take over the world, man. I've heard that's a great way to make templates as well.
And I took this hack from Jason Calacanis, but like, that is like my new home screen for my web browser. And I'm trying to train my brain to use that as my first step for doing everything.
I mean, that's ultimately what Google is.
Interesting.
Instead
of it being Google, you'll just type in your what you want to Google into ChatGPT.
Yeah, I mean, Google will give you a whole bunch of blue links that you need to scroll through to try to find the right answer, whereas ChatGPT will give you the right answer.
You hope it gives you the right.
Hopefully,
right answer. The thing about it is, so the time that you save by starting at the 80% solution, I mean, you can't copy and paste like a numbskull and then and then be like, this is gospel. It came from ChatGPT. I mean, you still got to read through it and you got to tailor it and edit it and make sure there's not any hallucinations or anything in there. But to start at 75 or 80% solution is way more time effective.
Did you say hallucinations?
Yeah, that's what they're called, when it tells you just a straight up fallacy and just makes up something because it doesn't know the answer. Yeah, they call it a hallucination.
I never heard that, but that's the first time we talked about that on the show. This is great.
Yeah.
So does it give you the links to all the sites that it used to?
It does. Yeah. So that's a big debate right now. Is like Google Bard is starting to do works cited. with links, but then it's talked about that there's a lot of pending lawsuits in terms of what sources has trained that large language model or LLM for the data that it's using. But
where are they getting the information? They're just scraping the information superhighway.
That's what they've done in years.
They're just taking that top answer on Google, the one that's in bold when you type in a question.
Yeah,
but like that's why
just copying it in.
Yeah, that's that. But that's why like Twitter locked everything down, because you're like, no, you're not. And like Reddit's going to probably end up making $100 million a year to give someone access to train their LLM. I mean, big money on the data and the training sets for. And so Facebook has their stuff locked down. Anyone that has all this training data, they've locked it down because they know that they're going to bank.
So you're saying that Reddit could sell all of the comments and the posts of all time for this AI to analyze?
Yep.
Jesus.
Yeah. They'll probably get $100 million a year.
You don't think they're already doing that?
They've locked it down.
I would think they give all this stuff to data aggregators, and they're already.
Yeah, they've locked it all down, so that does not happen. Yeah, it's fascinating to watch all that stuff.
How do you find clients, Ben?
Like I said, people don't want a mortgage; they want a house. So realtors are the biggest source of my business, honestly. Real estate agents, I just make sure to help them grow their business and help their clients make sure their clients are happy.
So they come to realtors, then they feel comfortable with you. You get them the house of their clients' dreams, and they're able to get them the actual, financial paperwork, if you will.
I make the process easy for them. I mean, you're getting a loan is not an easy process. So I try to make it as easy as possible on the real estate agent and the client to just get the closing done on time and with the least amount of paperwork possible. Because that's ultimately my job.
How much easier would it be on customers of yours if they contacted you sooner versus later?
Oh, that's a great question.
I would just think that, like, man, you're so far down the pathway when it comes to, you've already dealt with the realtor, you got the house, you're emotionally attached to everything, and then it's like, oh, let me talk to Ben. Ben just killed my dreams. Whereas if you talk to Ben like at the beginning, you'd be like, to your point, well, if you want a $300,000 house or a $400,000 house, this is what you're looking at. These are the things that you need to work towards to be pre-qualified.
Yeah, I'd say before you go looking at houses, definitely. Well, let's talk. Let me give you the payments, rate, so you know exactly where you stand.
Are people not doing? I would imagine realtors would want someone to be pre-approved beforehand before they talk to them, so that they can be there.
Most of the time, if it's an experienced real estate agent, they're going to require a pre-approval letter before they show a buyer any houses. But there are some newer agents who are hungrier for business that will do that. So it's
and just take the risk and hope that it doesn't.
I guess.
Backfire?
But to answer your question, Tim, about it, definitely before they go shopping for a house. But if you think you have credit issues, or you think there's going to be something weird about your pre-approval, the more time, the better, right? Credit is not something that you can fix quickly, but it can be fixed. It takes a little bit of time though. So, don't come a week before you want to go shopping and we have to work on credit issues, because it's not going to work out like that. We need time. So if you think there's going to be issues or something weird about your pre-approval, you're switching jobs, you're self-employed, your credit score isn't as good as you'd like it, whatever the situation is, let's talk ahead of time. And a lot of people are scared of a credit inquiry, and I can even do a soft credit inquiry where it's not like an actual inquiry for credit, but we can see where you are, kind of thing.
Yeah, can we touch on that real quick? You talked about self-employed. So if you're a founder of a company and that company is less than 3 years old, what are some things that they should be putting in place or should be thinking about when they start the company? If they know that at some point I want to get a house, what are some things that they can do in preparation to make that easier?
So there are two different routes with self-employed, and I'm just talking about income. Income is always the hardest thing for a self-employed person because they either don't show any income or they haven't filed enough tax returns to qualify. So there's two routes a self-employed person can go. One is like a traditional conventional loan, which is what I do, your 30-year fixed rate, plain vanilla mortgage. And then there are what they call non-QM, non-qualified mortgage. It's basically a fancy term for alternative loans. I don't want to say subprime because that's a bad term, but they're just loans that calculate income differently. All right. So the biggest thing I would say for a self-employed person is to not write off every single thing that you can. Just because you can write it off doesn't mean you should. We don't use top line income. We use profits at the bottom. Now, obviously, there are things that as a business owner on your tax returns that aren't real expenses. Number one is depreciation. Depreciation is not a real expense. It's not dollars out of your pocket. So we actually add that back to your profit. So let's say you only had 30,000 in profits and you had 10,000 in depreciation. Well, now you have 40,000 in income to qualify. So the biggest thing I would say is don't write off every single thing that you can and to show a loss, because if you're not going to pay much in taxes, then you're not going to qualify for much with your mortgage. So that'd be honestly the biggest thing is to just show income on your tax returns.
Yeah, I mean, because you could be a founder, you just close a big funding round, and people are like, all right, man, I'm going to sell some stuff on the secondary or whatever to get a house, and it's like, man, you don't have all the right stuff in place to it's the purchase happen.
People think we could just use a P&L or we're just going to use what they made last month. No, we take the last 2 years of federal tax returns that were filed, and there's literally a Excel spreadsheet where you plug all the numbers in and it spits out the number, but it's basically your gross profit on your business for the last 2 years averaged.
Yeah, I feel for you in some of that regard, because it's not like you're the ones making the decision. I mean, your hands are tied. It's just
there are
regulation is the regulation.
If they don't show a lot of income, if a self-employed person doesn't show a ton of income, there are alternatives, but the interest rates are going to be higher. But they could qualify with those. Even if you show a loss on your tax return, you can still qualify with some of the alternative programs. But your interest rate is going to be 2, 3, 4% higher because the risk is higher. So,
is that conversation hard to have, or have you done enough of them now? Where you're just like, you're not going to do it. Yeah, it is.
No, it's always difficult. I mean, I just explain it. Like I said, I give them the most information that I can. I'm not going to just BS them and say, no, it just can't be done and not explain why. I'm going to explain why. I'll send them what the worksheet looks like, any piece of information they want to know. I do how I would want to be treated. Like, tell me why. Don't just tell me no, tell me why, or give me an alternative. So I'd say it's hard to have, but it's getting easier.
What's something that is going to be disrupted in the real estate world? So, for example, we've had a guest on the show that is doing the equivalent of micro purchasing of stocks for one stock in a home. It's called Pocket Properties, where I guess I don't know how many people can be buying that house, but several at once, and then they come into it together to purchase a house. Is that a good assessment of what they do, Tim?
Yeah. I mean, they'll create a special purpose vehicle, an SPV, and you can. Well,
is that using crypto tokens, or how are they tokenizing?
No, but they're going through the whole FINRA certification thing so that you can get fractional shares of investment property, kind of thing.
Okay.
Is that something that, what do you think is going to be disrupted in the future? Hearing that quick little business model, is that a big red flag for you? Where's the future of real estate going in your mind?
Yeah, I think the fintech industry is really interesting. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that can be done there. And when you talk about that app, it's like a crowdfunding app to purchase real estate, which is usually for multi-unit properties. You're talking, anything above 4 units. So you're, maybe even 100-unit apartment building that people are investing in. So I don't know their business model, but I would assume it's not single family homes. But that does not affect what I do, because I can only loan up to a 4-unit property. I can't do anything over 4 units. So, the people I work with are homeowners, home buyers, some investors, but that's not a huge part of my business. So for me personally, I don't think that piece would affect the mortgage business. I think what I'm more, I don't want to say scared about, but is interesting to me is like some of these like really low cost broker shops that are popping up that like churn and burn loans kind of thing. I don't know. They're kind of fly by night shops. So I think those are a sort of a threat to our industry because they give us a bad reputation. They don't take the client's best interest at heart. They sort of open up to as many mortgages as they can. And when market conditions change, they just kind of close up. We call them like sort of fly by night mortgage shops or pop-up broker shops, something like that. But I think those can give us a bad reputation as mortgage people because those people don't care about the customer. So to me, that's the bigger threat, I think.
How much did something like Rocket Mortgage and how much did that disrupt the industry?
Well, honestly, I think it's a great thing. It disrupted it because it created competition and it forced, companies like mine who back in the early 2000s was sort of late to adopt technology. Now we've got, the app, we've got people filling out online. You can upload your you do the entire pre-approval online. So I think it was a great thing, honestly. And for me, what I offer is completely different than Rocket Mortgage. I'm a personal service, kind of deal. You're not going to get that at Rocket Mortgage. So I thought it was a great thing because it brought the technology up.
What's something you want to talk about that we haven't talked about?
I don't know. Maybe your beard. How's that beard coming?
I'm trying to be.
Wish Santa. I could grow one. Honestly, it's
Santa in July. I think Tim has a better beard than me.
No, I don't think so. I think that's no.
Tim's a little more organized. His beard's a little more organized.
No, that's not true. It is summer and he is running 6 miles a day and he doesn't want his beard is always longer in the winter and shorter in the summer. And so this is just his summer beard. Then you got me who's like, screw it. I don't care how hot it is. And I'm just going to rock the beard. This time, like 3 years ago, I just like, on your phone where it'll pop up like featured photos from like the past. My beard was like 3 inches longer and just like ridiculous. Because, that's when the barbershops were closed during the old Coco days. So it ain't that bad right now, Ben Munson.
Yeah. One thing I did want to talk about is crypto. I'm into the crypto thing a little bit. Even
Are you still? Yeah.
Is it still alive, or do you think is it just dormant for a little while?
I'm a Bitcoin fanboy, so I'm always going to be on the Bitcoin train. I'm
curious your take. I think Bitcoin's going to be, that's going to be here for a while. But the other stuff that came up, I think, is on pause. But
isn't that the equivalent of what you could say like ChatGPT and like all of these other AI things? It's like, okay, there's going to be a few that are going to make it, and then the majority of them will go away. Kind of like all these other like Dogecoin and
especially with the SEC is cracking down on a lot of those cryptos now, man. And so I think you're going to see a huge decrease in the number of ICOs coming out. All these exchanges are going to close. I honestly think it's going to be a good thing for Bitcoin because Bitcoin's sort of got some legitimacy in the financial markets. For like, they talk about it on CNBC. So
that was always my first thing. It was like, okay, if they're talking about these on the big boy media networks and they got banners across just like the stock market, that's a big sign that this has some sort of legitimacy to it, to your point. Where
it is a standard.
I do think first mover is important in that case.
It is, but I think that the biggest, the thing, and maybe you can expand on this, Ben. Right now, I think the biggest challenge that Bitcoin has is just that people use it as a store of currency. They're not using it from a transactional, hey, I'm going to buy a slice of pizza today for a fraction of a Bitcoin, because 10 years from now, that slice of pizza could be, $100,000. So everyone's just holding it as a store of currency.
Well, I think it used to be spendable, but the problem is that the fees are so high with Bitcoin. So without getting too technical, there's two schools of thought with the Bitcoin developers, right? There's what they call the big blockers, which are people that want lower transaction fees, more transactions to be crammed into one block, which means that the cost of a transaction goes down. So that's why Bitcoin Cash was created, actually, because Bitcoin, the big blockers did not want Bitcoin fee, did not want to bring down Bitcoin fees. They like the high fees because it rewards the miners. The miners are the ones that get the fees, and they're all about the miners, I guess, the big blockers. So Bitcoin Cash was sort of a fork of that blockchain that was created to be more of a cash-based crypto. So, Bitcoin Cash, it might cost you less than a penny to do a transaction, whereas Bitcoin, it's going to cost you $1 or $2 to send some Bitcoin. No matter, even if you send $1 of Bitcoin, it's going to cost you $1. So it just kills the transaction ability with Bitcoin. So, I think it's by design.
Stay tuned is what I'm hearing. Stay tuned.
Yeah. So, the mortgage business does not like crypto. So you can't use it to buy a house. We can't use it as income. So don't take this the wrong way. This is my personal opinions of what I like about crypto. So.
Well, I remember hearing just recently how many professional athletes have taken some of their money in crypto, and it just, let's say they were getting $10 million, they give it to them $10 million in crypto, and now that's, that was ultimately
they were idiots.
500 grand.
You never put all your eggs in one basket. Have they not heard this saying before? Like, that's just idiotic. Why would you take your entire salary in Bitcoin?
Well, you heard it here first.
I guess they had other sponsorships and stuff that they were living off of, but
I don't know.
But that's crazy to me.
Crazy world. Well, Ben, it's been absolutely a pleasure chit-chatting with you. This is probably the longest talk we've had since the old Hatch days. I just want to congratulate you on
575.
Becoming what you have. Yes, on your 575. Good luck on the 425 next. And enjoy your video game chair. It looks very comfortable.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You need to get one of the 40. You need to get like the 40-year-old virgin one, where like the like the
joysticks.
Are in the chair.
Hang on, I got that.
Like, oh God.
Oh, we lost him. He disconnected himself.
Oh, it was so close. We were so close to getting something. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
For
we'll
a
have him back.
Episode where we will make sure that comes technology. Oh, I was so excited to see where we were with that. But toodles until next week.
So long.
Thank you for listening. Cheers.